Can expats open bank accounts in the Philippines, and how do you go about that? Being a foreigner, I get asked this quite often for advice. I get comments saying that I tried to open a bank account at a couple different banks, and they wouldn't allow it. But they're not told why they're not allowed to. So anyway, let's. This is an article I found on JRC Visa Consultancy and Immigration Services. Some of you know that I have done several interviews with him. They've got offices across the Philippines. They opened one up in Angeles recently and in the Manila area. Here in Cebu City, over on Bohol Island, Panglao Island, out by the international airport someplace. I think Mualboal and Dumaguete. Am I for Davao? They've got an office in Davao, down in Mindanao now, Davao City. Anyway, let's get into this article. Can expats open bank accounts in the Philippines? As an expatriate living in the Philippines, one of the essential tasks on your to-do list is opening a bank account. For many of you, having a local bank account not only simplifies your financial transaction, but also ensures a smooth transition into your new life. And I can tell you, I know many foreigners who do have bank accounts here. Are expats allowed to open bank accounts? Yes, expats are generally allowed to open bank accounts in the Philippines. The country welcomes foreign nationals and recognizes the importance of catering to their financial needs. However, certain requirements must be met to ensure compliance with banking regulations. I'll get into a little more details and exceptions, that type of thing, a little bit later. But anyway, let's continue on here. What are the requirements for expats opening bank accounts in the Philippines? To open a bank account, you will typically need the following documents: original and valid foreign passport with valid visa. Well, that makes sense. Note, banks may require you to have a long-term visa. Long-term generally means a year or longer, rather than the tourist visa. Occasionally, I've heard of guys with tourist visas being able to open bank accounts. There again, I'll get into some of the exceptions and how that's done a little bit later. Original and valid ACI card, other residency IDs except tourists. ACR is Alien Certificate of Registration. After you're here 60 days, you were required to apply for that ACRI card. The Alien Certificate of Registration, or ACRI card, is an identification document issued from the Bureau of Immigration to foreigners residing in the Philippines. If you don't have an ACRI card, check with the bank if they accept other residency IDs that are valid alternatives. Banks may require you to present a non-tourist ACRI card. There again, banks have different rules, and many times if you have a reference, if you have a Filipino who has an account at that bank, and he can refer you and say, yeah, this guy's okay, he's legit, not a troublemaker, whatever. They may allow you to open an account easier. Proof of income. Banks often require proof of your income, such as bank statements, employment contract, or proof of remittance from abroad. This requirement ensures that you have a reliable source of funds to maintain your account. Statement of account. Some banks may request a statement of account from your previous bank or financial institution. This helps demonstrate your banking history, serves as a reference for the new account. It is important to note that different banks may have varying requirements. Like I said earlier, it's advisable to contact the bank of your choice and inquire about the specific documents. You can find some of that information online, but it really comes down to face-to-face meetings oftentimes, and first impressions. All the experts say people make first impressions in the first minute or two or three of meeting somebody. And how do you come across when you meet? Anyway, choosing the right bank. Philippines has a wide range of local and international banks, each offering different account options and services. When choosing a bank, consider factors such as convenience, accessibility, reputation, fees, customer service. Research different banks and compare their offerings. Makes sense. Additional considerations: initial deposit. Banks in the Philippines often require an initial deposit to open an account. Makes sense. Minimum deposit amount varies between banks and account types, so it is essential to inquire. Mostly they require Philippine peso 25,000 for peso type accounts and $500 for US dollar accounts. Now I don't know if they will set up other foreign currency accounts or not. Please comment in the comment section if you're from a different country and you've been able to set up an account in your currency. Banks offer various types of accounts, including savings accounts, current accounts, foreign currency accounts. Determine which account aligns with your financial goals. And I know several people who once a month they transfer U.S. dollars into their U.S. dollar account, and then when the exchange rate is the best, they transfer some of that money into their peso account. So that's one way of doing it. Online banking, yeah, different banks do different online banking services, and even in the U.S. many years ago, I know I had limitations. I was doing little business in Arizona, Nevada, California, and even Texas, New Mexico, and I had received I was banking. My home bank was in Arizona at that time, and later I switched it to Nevada. But anyway, I received a check for services from somebody in California, I believe, or at least it was mailed there. It was mailed there because I had an address there, and I tried to deposit it in a Wells Fargo bank in California, and they said, "No, sir, you're not allowed to do that. You need to deposit this in Arizona." So I drove what, several hours, couple of hours anyway, over to the border with Arizona and deposited my check and went back towards Los Angeles. So online banking, here too, there are some banks. I had heard a few years ago that BPI, for instance, would allow you to take care. Let's say you have an issue. Let's say you're traveling. You set up an account in Manila, but you're traveling in Cebu, and you have an issue with your bank, and you go into a bank branch here, and the bank says, "No, sir, you've got to go back and take care of this at your bank branch where you opened your account at." And I had read, this is a number of years ago, that BPI was, this is an evolving situation with banks, that they would allow you to take care of issues at other banks, not just the one where you initially set up. That's very important, especially if you're going to be traveling at all, and then you have a problem. Opening a bank account in the Philippines as an expat is generally permitted, and the process is relatively straightforward. By ensuring you have the required documentation, understanding the bank's requirements, and selecting a reputable institution that meets your needs, you can establish a solid foundation during your time in the Philippines. And you can click this and send them an email or something, and they've got a number. He puts out a lot of good information. He's got a YouTube channel. I'll put a link to his YouTube channel in the description, as well as he sends out emails, and I get an email once or twice a week, And here was another article got cut off here, but how much should expats budget in the Philippines? Interesting article. JRC Visa Consultancy and Immigration Services. They also he's also a realtor and doing more and more real estate. If you want to buy a house, sell a house, he's an appraiser. If you want to get a professional opinion about the value of property. What else do they do? They've got a couple accountants, an accountant, and lawyers on staff. So if you need consulting as far as opening up businesses or taking care of certain business documentation and requirements by the various agencies. I talked to JR the other day, and he said, that gets to be really detailed because these different forms have to be sent in to the various agencies on certain time schedules, and you have to make sure that. So it's a very time-consuming thing to make sure that you take care of all the documentation, the reports, all that type of thing. Beyond me, because I'm not in business here. But those of you who are in business, and I know a couple Australians, a couple other foreigners who do have businesses here, and they've told me about some of their unique challenges and experiences here in the Philippines, like any foreign country. I knew an Australian, he had a hotel over in Vietnam, and he was telling me about some of the issues he was having. And one of the biggest problems was that nobody spoke English that he dealt with, so he always had to use a translator anytime he was dealing with any of the government people. The nice thing about the Philippines is that English is the second official language here, and almost all documentation, legal documentation, is in English. That really, really, really makes it so much easier for us English-speaking, English-reading people. Anyway, that's it. I will put links to his site. You might check out his YouTube channel, as well as you might. They've got a really good website. They've recently redone their website. I'll put a link to that, jrcconsultancy.com. And if you need help with marriage visas, retirement visas, work visas, student visas is a completely different type of thing. The educational system handles that type of thing, I think. Anyway, thanks for watching, and looking forward to some comments about what your experience has been opening up a bank account here in the Philippines. See you next time.